When giants fall silent, Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the communication chamber of Earth's newest deep space vessel, the Endeavour, staring at the wall of monitors that should have been buzzing with activity. Instead, they displayed nothing but static and empty star charts. The silence was deafening. Still nothing from the Valorian sectors. She asked her communications officer, Lieutenant Torres. Complete radio silence, Captain. It's been 47 days since their last transmission. The entire 7th Fleet just vanished from our sensors. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The Valorian Empire had been humanity's greatest rival for the past decade. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's, their warriors bred for combat, and their fleet could reduce entire star systems to cosmic dust. The 7th Fleet alone contained over 300 warships and nearly 500,000 soldiers. Such a force didn't simply disappear. Dr. James Chen, the mission's lead xenobiologist, approached with his datapad in hand. His usually calm demeanor showed cracks of concern. Captain, I've been analyzing the last known trajectory of the Valorian fleet. They were heading toward the Kepler 442 system, investigating reports of an ancient signal. Ancient signal? Maya raised an eyebrow. Something older than any known civilization. The Valorians thought it might be archaeological treasure or advanced technology. You know how they are about expanding their empire. Maya nodded grimly. The Valorians were proud, honor-bound warriors who saw conquest as the highest virtue. They would never retreat from a discovery that could enhance their power, which made their silence even more troubling. Lieutenant Kim, Maya called to her security chief, a sharp-eyed woman who had served in the Earth Defense Corps. How long until we reach the last known position of the Valorian fleet? Sarah Kim checked her chronometer. 18 hours at maximum warp, Captain. But I should mention long-range sensors are picking up some unusual readings from that sector. What kind of readings? Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. And Captain, Kim paused, her expression growing serious. There are ships out there, lots of them, but they're not moving. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Maya felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. Earth had sent the Endeavour on a reconnaissance mission, expecting to find evidence of a Valorian defeat or withdrawal. They hadn't expected to find a mystery that could threaten the entire galaxy. 18 hours later, Maya stood on the observation deck, watching through reinforced transparent aluminum as the impossible sight revealed itself. Hundreds of Valorian warships floated in perfect formation, their massive hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. The legendary 7th Fleet hung motionless in the void, looking as if they had simply stopped mid-journey and decided to take an eternal rest. Sensors confirmed zero life signs across all vessels, reported Dr. Chen from his portable scanner. But Captain, their power cores are still active. Life support systems are running. Artificial gravity is functioning. It's as if the crews just stepped out for a moment. Maya had spent 12 years in Earth's space service, but she had never seen anything like this. The Valorian ships were works of art and destruction combined, each one capable of laying waste to a small moon. Yet here they sat, silent as tombstones in a cosmic graveyard. "Take us to the flagship," Maya ordered. "Full tactical alert, but weapons on standby only. If something did this to the Valorians, I don't want to give it a reason to notice us." The Endeavour drifted closer to the massive dreadnought at the center of the formation. The ship was called Honor's Edge, and it was pristine. No battle damage, no signs of struggle. Through the viewing ports, they could see into the vessel's corridors. Lights were on, control panels glowed with active displays, but not a single figure moved within. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim called out, tension tight in her voice. "The ships are maintaining perfect formation, but their navigation computers show they've been drifting for over 40 days. How are they staying in formation without active control?" Maya frowned. Even the most advanced autopilot systems would have caused some drift over that time period. Yet the fleet maintained their battle formation with mechanical precision, as if invisible hands were still guiding each vessel. "Prepare the boarding shuttle," she decided. "Kim, you're with me. Dr. Chen, I want you monitoring everything from here. If we don't report back in 4 hours, you take the Endeavor and jump back to Earth immediately." "Captain, I really should come with you," Dr. Chen protested. "If there's a biological component to whatever happened here, you'll need someone who can identify it." Maya considered this. Chen was right, but something about this situation felt wrong in ways she couldn't explain. Her instincts, honed by years of dangerous missions, were screaming warnings. "Fine, but at the first sign of trouble, you get back to the shuttle. That's an order." The docking bay of Honor's Edge was eerily normal. Atmospheric readings showed breathable air, standard temperature, and pressure. Their magnetic boots clanked against the metal deck plates as they moved through the hangar. Fighter craft sat in perfect rows, their maintenance scaffolding still in place as if the mechanics had just stepped away. "Motion sensors aren't picking up anything," Kim reported, scanning the area with her tricorder. "But the ship's internal systems are all active. Even the recycling plants are running." They made their way through corridors that should have been filled with Valorian soldiers. The ship was designed to house over 8,000 crew members, yet their footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Personal quarters showed signs of recent habitation. Belongings scattered about, food containers still on tables, sleeping alcoves unmade. It was as if the entire crew had simply vanished mid-activity. "Look at this," Dr. Chen called from ahead. He had stopped beside a wall panel that glowed with an unusual silver light. These crystalline formations weren't in any of the intelligence photos we have of Valorian ships. Maya examined the crystals growing from the wall like metallic flowers. They pulsed with a soft inner light and seemed to be connected to the ship's power grid. "Are they some kind of technology?" "They're organic," Chen said, running his scanner over the formations. "But they're also interfacing directly with the ship's computer systems. It's like their part plant, part machine, part something else." As they moved deeper into the ship, they found more of the crystal formations. They grew larger and more complex as the team approached the bridge, some reaching from floor to ceiling like pillars of living light. The crystals hummed with a low, almost musical tone that seemed to resonate in their bones. The command bridge of Honor's Edge was a masterpiece of Valorian engineering. Curved workstations surrounded a central command platform where Fleet Commander Vaktar should have been directing his forces. Instead, the bridge was empty except for the largest crystal formation they had yet encountered. It grew from the floor like a tree made of silver glass, its branches reaching toward the ceiling and interfacing with every major control system. "Captain, you need to see this," Kim said from the communication station. "The ship's log is still recording. The last entry was made yesterday." Maya moved to look over her shoulder. The screen showed standard ship status reports, all automatically generated. "What about crew logs? Personal recordings?" Kim's fingers flew over the controls. "Here's something. A final transmission from Fleet Commander Vaktar, recorded 43 days ago." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge as it had been. Valorian officers worked at their stations while their commander stood at the center. His reptilian features, usually set in expressions of proud determination, were twisted with something Maya had never seen on a Valorian face before. "Fear. This is Fleet Commander Vaktar of the 7th Imperial Fleet." The recording began. "We have encountered something beyond the outer rim. Something that exists in the spaces between thoughts, in the silence between words. Our warriors stand ready to fight. But how do you battle something that has no form, no substance, yet can reach into your mind and simply turn you off?" The image quality deteriorated as the crystal formations began to grow visibly in the background. Vaktar continued speaking, but his voice became strange, echoing as if coming from multiple sources. "It calls itself the silence. It feeds on consciousness, on the spark of individual thought. One by one, my crew has been quieted, not killed. Death would be a mercy. They are aware, but they cannot think, cannot act, cannot be themselves. They are becoming part of something larger, something ancient that has waited in the dark between stars for minds sophisticated enough to sustain its hunger. Maya watched in horror as Valorian crew members in the background began to move in perfect synchronization, their individual personalities clearly gone. The crystal formations grew rapidly, fed by some unknown energy. "We understand now," Vaktar said, but his voice was joined by others, creating a chorus of overlapping words. "The silence has waited eons for minds capable of true consciousness. Our technology, our military precision, our unified culture. We are perfect sustenance for its growth. It preserves us, uses us. But we are no longer ourselves." "That's right," she whispered. "We're not like the others. And we're going to be a problem for you." "What makes us different?" The crystal formations throughout Honor's Edge were retreating, pulling back from the corridors and systems they had invaded. Maya kept her hand pressed against the central formation on the bridge, maintaining her mental contact with the silence, while her team cut their way to freedom. "Captain, whatever you're doing, it's working," Kim called out. "The path to the shuttle is clear." But Maya wasn't ready to leave yet. Through her connection with the entity, she was learning things that Earth needed to know. The silence was ancient, older than most stars, older than the civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy. It had been sleeping in the void between dimensions, waiting for minds sophisticated enough to sustain its existence. "You've done this before," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. "Other species, other fleets. How many?" Images flooded her mind. The proud Kethmori Empire, silenced 3,000 years ago. The warrior clans of Zephyria, absorbed into peaceful unity. Dozens of civilizations that had reached for the stars only to find something waiting in the darkness that offered them eternal rest from the burden of individual thought. "But humans are different," she continued. "We don't want your peace. We don't want your unity. We want to argue and fight, and make our own mistakes." The silence tried to show her the beauty of collective consciousness, perfect understanding, an end to loneliness, the peace that came from never having to struggle alone again. But every time it offered paradise, Maya's mind conjured images of humans choosing the hard path over the easy one. Soldiers charging impossible odds, scientists pursuing dangerous knowledge, explorers heading into unknown dangers simply because they were unknown. Dr. Chen appeared at her side, his scanner recording everything. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations. The entity is learning from you, adapting." "Good," Maya said. "Let it learn. Let it understand what it's up against." Through the crystal, she felt the silence accessing her memories, trying to understand human nature. It saw the wars humanity had fought, the conflicts that seemed senseless to an entity that valued unity above all else. But it also saw something that disturbed it, humans who had faced impossible odds and won through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. The entity pulled back, its presence withdrawing from Maya's mind. The crystals throughout the ship began to dissolve, their silver light fading. But Maya wasn't done yet. "Where are the others?" she demanded. "The Valorians you absorbed. They're still in there, aren't they?" The answer came not in words but in understanding. The consciousness of every being the silence had consumed was preserved within its collective matrix. They were aware but unable to act, existing in a state of perfect, terrible peace. "Bring them back," Maya ordered. The silence recoiled at the suggestion. To release the consciousness it had gathered would be like asking a living being to cut out its own heart. These minds were its sustenance, its very existence. "Then let me make you a deal," Maya said, her voice taking on the tone she used when negotiating with hostile forces. "You've learned about human nature from my mind. You know we don't give up. You know we'll keep fighting you, keep finding ways to resist your influence. We'll be a constant irritation, a chaos factor you can't control." She felt the entity's reluctant agreement. Humans were indeed unlike anything it had encountered in its eons of existence. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to release the Valorians and anyone else you've absorbed. In return, I'll make sure Earth doesn't come hunting for you with everything we've got. You can find some other way to exist, some other source of sustenance that doesn't involve enslaving entire civilizations." The silence hesitated. It had fed on conscious minds for so long that it couldn't imagine another way to exist. "There are other forms of consciousness," Dr. Chen said suddenly, apparently following the conversation through his instruments. "Artificial intelligences, quantum computers, even some forms of stellar phenomena exhibit consciousness-like patterns. You don't need to prey on living beings." Through her connection, Maya felt the entity considering this possibility. It had always chosen the path of least resistance, absorbing civilizations that welcomed its offers of peace and unity. The idea of seeking alternative sources of sustenance had never occurred to it. "But first," Maya said firmly, "you release everyone you've taken." The process was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Through the crystal network, she felt thousands of individual consciousness awakening from their enforced slumber. The Valorians throughout the fleet began to stir as their minds were returned to their own bodies. The collective peace of the silence's embrace gave way to the chaotic cacophony of individual thought. On the Bridge of Honor's edge, Fleet Commander Vaktar materialized from the central crystal formation, his form solidifying as his consciousness was restored to his physical body. He looked around in confusion, his reptilian features showing the disorientation of someone waking from a dream that had lasted for over a month. "What? Where?" he began. Then his eyes focused on Maya. "Human, what are you doing here?" "Saving your scaly hide, apparently," Maya replied with a grin. "How do you feel?" Vaktar examined his hands, flexed his muscles, took a deep breath. "Like myself again. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to have my own thoughts, my own will." He looked at the fading crystal formations around the bridge. "The silence, is it gone?" "Withdrawing," Maya confirmed, "but not destroyed. It's going to find other ways to exist, ways that don't involve absorbing entire civilizations." Throughout the Valorian fleet, similar scenes were playing out as crew members awakened from their enforced unity. Ship after ship came back online as their personnel resumed their duties, though many would need time to readjust to individual consciousness after weeks of collective existence. Lieutenant Kim approached, her expression showing a mixture of amazement and concern. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the entire 7th Fleet. They're all asking the same question: what happened, and how did we free them?" Maya finally removed her hand from the crystal formation, breaking her connection with the silence. She could still sense its presence, but it was distant now, already seeking the alternative forms of consciousness that Dr. Chen had suggested. "We did what humans do best," she said. "We refused to accept the unacceptable. We found a third option when we were only given two choices." Fleet Commander Vaktar approached, his stance formal despite the circumstances. "Captain Maya Rodriguez of Earth, on behalf of the Valorian Empire and the 47,000 souls you have restored to themselves, I offer you the highest honor our people can bestow, the title of Battle Sister, though you are not of our blood." Maya was surprised. The Valorians rarely showed respect to other species, considering most to be inferior. "I'm honored, Commander, but I was just doing my job." "No," Vaktar said firmly. "You did something our entire fleet could not. You faced an entity that could have given you peace, unity, an end to the struggles of individual existence, and you chose chaos instead. You chose the hard path. That is not merely doing a job, that is being truly alive." Dr. Chen was busy documenting everything, his excitement evident as he compiled data that would revolutionize xenobiology. "Captain, the implications of this are staggering. We've made contact with a form of consciousness older than our solar system, and we've demonstrated that human mental patterns have unique properties that make us resistant to psychic absorption." "More than that," Maya said, watching as the last of the crystal formations dissolved into harmless dust. "We've shown that sometimes the best solution isn't to fight or to surrender. Sometimes it's to find a completely different approach." Over the next several hours, as the Valorian fleet regrouped and prepared for their journey home, Maya found herself in an unexpected position. Representatives from across the galaxy began arriving, drawn by the news that Earth had accomplished something no other species had managed. They had negotiated with the Silence and lived to tell about it. The Kethmori, who had lost their entire civilization to the entity 3 millennia ago, sent a delegation to thank the humans who had secured the return of their people's consciousness. The warrior clans of Zephyria celebrated as their long-lost heroes awakened from crystal sleep. Species that had never heard of Earth before suddenly wanted to establish diplomatic relations with the stubborn, chaotic humans who had found a way to defeat the undefeatable. But perhaps the most significant moment came when Maya received a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Chen, no relation to her Dr. Chen, appeared on the main screen with an expression of pride and concern. Captain Rodriguez, your report is both inspiring and terrifying. You've made first contact with an entity that could potentially threaten every conscious species in the galaxy, and somehow you managed to negotiate a peaceful resolution. How did you know your approach would work? Maya considered the question carefully. I didn't, sir. But I knew that what the Silence was offering, perfect peace, perfect unity, wasn't what humans want. We're too stubborn, too chaotic, too individualistic. We'd rather struggle alone than surrender our right to be ourselves. And that's what saved not just you, but potentially every thinking being in the galaxy, the Admiral said. Captain, by order of Earth Command, you and your crew are being commended for extraordinary service. More importantly, Earth is being invited to join the Galactic Council as a full member, not as junior partners, but as equals. It seems the galaxy has decided that having stubborn, chaotic humans around might be exactly what they need. As the Endeavor prepared to return to Earth with news that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever, Maya stood on the observation deck watching the Valorian fleet departing for their homeworld. Each ship carried crew members who had experienced something no other beings in the galaxy could claim. They had been absorbed by the Silence and lived to remember it. Dr. Chen joined her at the viewing port, his datapad finally set aside for a moment. You know, Captain, what we've learned here changes everything we thought we knew about consciousness, about what makes a species survive and thrive in the galaxy. What do you mean? Every other species the Silence encountered was advanced, unified, sophisticated. They had achieved peace within their own cultures, eliminated chaos and conflict. That's exactly what made them vulnerable. But humans, he smiled. We're messy. We argue with each other. We question authority. We refuse to accept simple answers to complex problems. The very traits that other species see as primitive are what saved us. Maya nodded, understanding. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the smartest, or the most advanced. But we're the most stubborn. We're the ones who refuse to give up, even when giving up would be easier. Especially when giving up would be easier, Chen corrected. As Earth grew larger in the viewing port, Maya thought about the future that lay ahead. Humanity had gained respect across the galaxy not by conquering or by achieving perfect unity, but by being exactly what they had always been: chaotic, stubborn, individual human beings who refused to accept that some problems couldn't be solved. The Silence was still out there, but it was seeking new forms of sustenance among artificial intelligences and quantum phenomena, learning to exist without preying on living consciousness. The civilizations it had absorbed were free to rebuild and grow, and humanity had taken its place as the species other civilizations called when they faced impossible problems. Not because humans were perfect, but because they were too stubborn to accept that anything was truly impossible. In the depths of space, something ancient had learned a valuable lesson about the diversity of consciousness and the strength that could be found in chaos. And somewhere in the galaxy, whenever civilizations faced entities or problems that seemed undefeatable, they would remember the humans who had looked at an impossible situation and simply refused to accept it. Maya smiled as she watched Earth approach. Humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their unity. It had always been their refusal to give up, their stubborn insistence on finding a third option when only two were offered. And that, she realized, was exactly what the galaxy needed. The title Humanity, F*****, had never been more appropriate. Not because humans were superior to other species, but because when faced with an entity that offered the easy path of surrender, they had chosen the hard path of staying human, chaotic, argumentative, stubborn, and free. As the Endeavor entered Earth's atmosphere, Maya knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was full of impossible problems, ancient entities, and challenges that defied conventional solutions. But now they had humans to deal with them. And humans, as the Silence had learned, were very good at refusing to accept the impossible.